This is Talking My Walking. I am Rodrigo Ribeiro, just another voice in the wilderness. Today I'm going to talk about how the socioeconomic reality and the socio-cultural reality reinforce each other and shape how we perceive ourselves, how we think, how we relate, how we behave with other human beings, with animals and nature and everything, and why that matters. Everybody knows that in order to observe and analyze or study any object, uh, any event or reality, it's necessary to distance ourselves from it, which means that if we are too not obsessed, if we are involved, if we are part of the process and we do not distance ourselves from it, we are not going to understand how it not to, we not only how it works, but how it shapes, how it influences ourselves. And this is the basic strategy, the basic principle of any analysis that helps us to free ourselves as much as humanly possible from being an object ourselves of deception, of manipulation, of instrumentalization and tribalization, and that in reality works against us. And by us, I mean works against the well-being, the collective well-being, without which we as individuals, or I mean most of us as individuals, will do worse than we could. And worse in many levels. Because we are dehumanized, we are led and to compete with each other in order to have, I mean, as if the only way to survive in a community. That's why it's very important to understand that if we do not believe in society, and we are at the same time we are social beings, not believe in the community, but we believe not only individuals and families, we are going to fight each other, to fight our neighbors, to fight our fellow citizens that belong to the same class or caste. And by behaving and believing that, what we do is just to reinforce the class structure, the power dynamics, the power elite that dominates society. And as we can, if we, this is the paradigm of the civilizational, the imperialist civilizational paradigm reflects this, that by dividing people across class caste lines and putting them competing with each other because the ladder, the social ladder, the socioeconomic and sociocultural ladder, they have many steps. It's not only 3 or 4 classes. They have these small steps that we are always fighting for this, for to go to go up one step. Okay, and then we do it to each other, and that instead of allowing us to become more free, because we become more free if we support other people's freedom. If we try to be more free by oppressing others, we need to build a system based on repression, that we need to use other human beings, not only us, but we need to use other to create this system where we have a class, a professional class, that is as the role to repress people, and it's always based on caste and class, because this dynamic is basically to make people accept their place, or accept voluntarily or by repression or violently or through the violent means, to to comply with their role in the society, to their place in society. So the socioeconomic reality, as I said, reinforces the socioeconomic reality and the sociocultural reality. They reinforce each other, because we cannot understand. Because if we try to understand reality, that's why you see so many analyses, geopolitical analysis and geoeconomic analysis, that are so wrong. So that are not really, I would not say wrong. Of course they are wrong, but they are, by omitting power and the imperialist plunder and the want to control, and the pursuit of hegemony, like the West does, like especially the U.S. empire. That's the purpose of the elite, the American elite. When I say the American elite, that American elite might include oligarchs and plutocrats from other places, okay, from other countries, as long as they comply with the dictates of the core. Okay, because when they stop complying, they will be in trouble. Because the idea is always for the American imperialist class, they want allies, they want friends, okay? Or they call them allies and friends. But what they really want is vassals. People that do what they are told to do. People that behave, that do the beating for the imperialist core. Okay, this is the reality that we should not accept. Because if we only understand it in the ideological terms, that the good versus evil, or it's these cultural wars, like these countries are the women don't have freedom, and I mean all these things. It's not because it's not important to liberate people from any form of oppression, from any form of control, or violence, or whatever. It is because if we do not understand the process by which these two, the socioeconomic reality and the socioeconomic reality and the cultural reality reinforce each other, because that's what the powerful do in order to control us. When I mean control us, is exactly that it can be different from country to country, or even from class to class. But the point is not the differences that we can see of behavior in people, because they live in specific circumstances, socio-political, economic circumstances, and because they have a cultural heritage and the religion, whatever. The problem is that we don't understand that this is not by chance. These processes are. This is always psychological, psychocognitive, affective war against the culture of true liberation, a culture based on the training from an early age to a sustained critical analysis perspective. It's not only being skeptic, but someone can be skeptic and might not do a really critical analysis. Holistic critical analysis to connect the dots. Because we, as human beings, as human, the nature of our socio-cultural condition makes us very vulnerable to the influence, to the manipulation of the socio-cultural manipulation of other human beings, through rules, through values, through how the narratives, how the ideological cultural narratives are designed in order to shape how we perceive the world and ourselves. And this is very important, because there is no such thing as freedom in absolute terms. Our freedom, my freedom of thought, my freedom of movement, my freedom of speech, is my freedom of decision and choice, is always related to the socio-economic reality and the socio-cultural reality where I live. That's why we are all people of our times. Even the most avant-garde of us cannot escape it. We can understand. We can, if we do our critical analysis, if we train our critical analysis skills, we might be able to understand it better in a more deeper and comprehensive way, the reality where we live, which this reality is a fusion, is a symbiotic process. It's not a fusion, it's a symbiotic process between the socio-economic reality and the socio-cultural reality, reinforcing each other. And by the way, most of us don't even live in the present, because we do live in the past, which means that most of the citizens, the value system, the understanding of reality it is impossible for us while we try to make a living, okay? While we go through, for so many of us, this hard process of being able, through to put food on the table and to have a roof over our heads and care about our families, and everything else we need to do, it is impossible for us to understand the reality, okay, as it is now, because we analyze the reality with the ideological and cultural framework that is already not exactly, it is part of a past, but can be a recent past. And it can be, it's not because history is not important, it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the mental framework, the cognitive framework and intellectual framework through which is the lenses through which we understand the reality. And we need to understand these nuances, how these two realities that are only one reality, but in fact is the symbiosis between two reinforcing each other. And this is very important to understand, because then you have the values such as meritocracy, inequality, trust, justice, truth, and everything else, and freedom and democracy, and all these things that are always in the socio-cultural environment, and influence. Not only influence, they frame the reality, the way we perceive the reality, because all of us perceive the reality through a frame. So we need to understand that we cannot understand the reality at the individual level in absolute terms. We need to help each other to understand it. We are not competing. We are not supposed to be competing with each other for which perspective and view and hypothesis and theory is best. No, we are what we are as socio-cultural beings that want to have a socioeconomic system fair and where equality really matters, because we all share the same needs that need to be satisfied in order that we can be real human beings. We need to be humble, not to be intellectual, or not to have intellectual hubris, because it doesn't make any sense. And because the ones that are supposed to be the authorities, that we should follow, that we should learn from them, sometimes they are frauds, intellectual frauds, okay? Many of them are totally intellectual frauds, because they don't care about the truth. But even the ones, which is always a minority, that want to understand the reality as it is, they cannot grasp the whole thing. They have blind spots. We all have blind spots. We are incorrect. We have flaws. We have misconceptions, and that's important. So we need each other. That's why, because this is the essence of a species with our characteristics. We are socio-cultural, and by being cultural, it means that we can believe anything and everything. Okay? It's not that we don't care for truth. It's because we have this powerful creative imagination that allows us, and the power of symbolic language that allows us to communicate, to build this alternative, this explanation, this cultural reality that that might have some points that starts from real things, but then you build a fictional explanation or justification. And if we do not understand it, we can be so easily manipulated while believing that everything we believe is true and is just because it's free choice and this and that, which is not true at all. Meanwhile, we are being manipulated by organizations, institutions, and groups, and of many fields, and economic interests. Usually by people that belong to the professional managerial class, which is the class that is trained to have a function to allow the class, the top 0.1%, to control the rest of the society, to have to implement the tools again. And this is important to understand. These tools are both socioeconomic tools, which they are political, because there is no such thing as economy. Economy is always political. We only have one thing: political economy. Economy is not a science. Economy is always ideological. So we have this the socioeconomic reality and the sociocultural reality, that these people, their function is to reinforce each other, to also reinforce the power that this top class, not the top of the social pyramid, controls the rest of us. And in the case of an imperialist class or an empire, this is not only to control at the domestic level, but to create the conditions to build an hegemonic power. Through what people think about a global government. No, this is not global governance. This is about dictating, not a global government. It is about dictating the rules and the rules. Okay, the rules for a global governance that is dictated by a centralized power. Okay, the power is not distributed. The power is distributed, but over a process of vassalage, not a process of partnership. It's partnership, but a vassalage partnership. So, and this is reality where we have, and there is only one way. I speak often about it, because the only way is that for us, the people that have to work hard to try their best to, instead of consuming and wasting their lives consuming infotainment and being loyal consumers of whatever labels, and allowing themselves to be bought and to become addicted to convenience, because convenience is a powerful tool to make us to weaken us, to weaken our strength to resist. All of us, okay, you should not because that's the main point of we should never think that me, I'm not like that. No, we are like that. All of us have at different concentration, let's put it this way, but we all are affected by this because being socio-cultural beings, living in a socio-economic reality, we all, to a certain extent, which is different in intensity, from each other, it's very different from each one between us, but it is because it is in our environment and it is reinforced, and we don't see it because it is a cultural blind spot, a cultural and ideological blind spot that most of us do not understand. And again, I want to talk about this point again, which is intellectual. This is a very important point in my opinion. Intellectual understanding is not enough. If we do not go, because intellectualists, usually we don't change. You don't stop smoking or doing or change your some wrong behavior in how you eat and whatever you do that is wrong and is ruining your health, for example, just because you understand it intellectually. Okay, you only change your habits of thinking, of eating, of whatever we do in life when we go through a process of conscious transformation. And the process of conscious transformation is towards a culture of true liberation, which needs to be built on the training of our ability, our skills, our innate skill. The skill is innate, but we need to train it, of critical analysis, to understand how logical fallacies work, to understanding how the truths of rhetoric and the demagoguery and everything else, how language framing and everything else. If we don't understand it, how these psychological tricks and all, because it's everything part of this socio-cultural environment or reality, then how can we change? How can we fight back and organize and unite? If they have all the tools and the money and the means to constantly to be omnipresent by basically everywhere, to train us to be obedient consumers, to not care about justice and truth at a deeper, holistic level, but to be just distracted, to be exposed to weapons of mass deception, to live in this web of deceit. While our lives and the lives of the people that we love and care about are being ruined, and people everywhere in all continents are being destroyed, countries being destroyed, in the name of a supreme of a system, a caste-based system, where we, the many, are only perceived, take note, as useful idiots, as cannon fodder, and disposable peons. That's how our masters perceive us. We are not of the same, that's the concept of class. We are inferior. But of course, they need this system of bribery. As I said before, the system of bribery is a system that you have so many steps And we are supposed to be always trying to see if we can go one step or a few steps up. And that's our role. Fighting, competing, supposedly to get to gain the merit of going a little further up. It doesn't matter what we destroy, how many resources are needed, how many trees or rivers or whatever we need to destroy to achieve our little, because we are never allowed, not even the people that belong to the 10% of the top are allowed. They are also tools. They are not allowed to become part of the 1%. That is might a few of them from the 10% that will be allowed to go to the top. That's why you can't be rich, but you are never politically. You can be a rich person, and you can be never. You might never be able to have any political agency or influence in the politics, in the deep politics, and the permanent bureaucracy that runs the empire. In this case, the American empire. Why do I talk about the American empire? Because it's the evil. It has never existed on this planet such an enterprise so evil as this imperialistic, with the objective, the clear objective for decades to control the whole world, to not allow, this is the policy, to not allow any nation to become a challenge. That's why they want to find some way to deter China and Russia. Okay? So this is very important to understand, because only a few will go to the 1%, and then only the very, very, very few will achieve the 0.1%. So this is, if we do not understand this in a holistic, in by holistic I mean comprehensive, that we connect the dots, and then we understand not only intellectually but through the process of conscious transformative process, that our freedom, our well-being, that if we care about the collective well-being and the collective freedom, we are investing. Okay, I don't like this word, but I'm that's the one that popped up in my brain. In our individual well-being and freedom, not by destroying our social fabric, not by perceiving ourselves only as individualistic individuals in the pursuit of self-interest. That is totally contrary to a species that have evolved and survived on the basis of their sociability as a social species, that unfortunately has this weakness of being vulnerable to be deceived by the people that really have the psychological psychological traits of non-social psychological traits, such as sociopathy, psychopathy, narcissism, opportunism, and all, megalomany and all the rest. Okay, this is the reality. This is not me, but I again, you don't need to follow authorities. That's my main point. We need to unite and organize collectively. But of course, we need to go through this transformation, this process of conscious transformation individually by our own effort in order to understand this how it happens at the level, how this reality is created, how we are created, shaped, manipulated, formatted by this socio-economic reality and socio-economic and socio-cultural reality, reinforcing each other for the purpose of controlling us at the individual level by tribalizing us, by atomizing us, by instrumentalizing us and weaponizing us. Against us. And this is, and again, I'm going to repeat it again. If you think that understanding this, what I'm saying, intellectually is enough, it changes how you behave, it changes how you perceive others, it changes how we relate towards others and towards nature and everything else, you are wrong. You need to train yourself, because it needs to be again and again and again a persistent process, a conscious transformative process by which you start to understand reality through different lenses, while having to survive in a socioeconomic reality, in the socioeconomic sociocultural reality that is trying to do the opposite to you, that is trying to make you perceive reality just in the opposite way. So just imagine how perseverant, how that we need to be in order to build, to allow a different narrative to become dominant in our subconscious mind, because this is not about eradicate the old narratives. Whatever we are exposed, it stays with us forever. It's about consciously reinforce a new narrative, a new comprehension, a new comprehensive understanding of the reality, that we consciously train ourselves, that in order to, at the subconscious level, that those narratives are going to become dominant. And when they become dominant, they become the principles and the values and the rules that coordinate our behavior and our way of thinking. This is how our mind operates. Do not care about what some scholars... I don't reject, and it is important, many of the knowledge that is produced by the scholars, the scientists, neuroscientists and the psychology, blah blah blah. I know that I have learned with them, but in the other hand, they also are very ideological, and unfortunately, most of them are ideological, not to liberate us, not to help us with a true culture of liberation. It's the opposite, is to make us conform with the existing socioeconomic and sociocultural reality. So do not try to learn with them, but try to not be instrumentalized by them. This is a very important point, that we need to understand the concepts, the intellectual tools, the scientific tools to understand. But then we need to draw a line and understand where they become ideological, where they are using their authority to instrument us ideologically by not, and we believe that we are receiving scientific factual knowledge. No, we are not. We are being instrumentalized ideologically to perceive reality in a certain way, through certain patterns. And this is a very important point also to take into account. I mean, maybe this is too, I mean, I don't know, this might be too much, or people might not care about what I'm saying because nobody knows me. I'm just a nobody, okay? But I think we should respect ourselves and see ourselves as thinking beings in spite of where we come from, in spite of that we have some Ivy League institution behind us, and PhDs and this and that, because I listen every day. Carefully, with attention, people with PhDs and doctorate. I mean, lots of people that are very well educated, and I do not see any difference between them and me. I know that I could say I always see that the limits of as individuals, I always see the limits of our individual intellect, of our individualist ability to perceive the whole thing, as I said before. And always take this into account. It doesn't matter where you come from. You can understand it. You might have more difficulties, or you might have more trouble to process the concepts, and to have less or more articulated or whatever. But we can understand it. And it's more about this process of conscious transformative process than anything else. And this is the antidote for the manipulation and the exposure that we cannot avoid being exposed to these weapons of mass deception, because we live in the web of deceit that is being reinforced. It is ubiquitous, is being reinforced every single moment, everywhere, even in the countries that you believe they are different. Countries are different from each other, but the paradigm, the existing socio-economic and socio-cultural, and especially is the imperialistic civilizational paradigm system. This class caste-based system that is so profoundly wrong. It's against our very nature. It's against the socio-cultural nature of our species. Is not to protect the species, is to protect only a small elite. And we need to deal with it if we want to have a future as a human species. And if you want to humanize, if you really care about building a society, a civilization that it's truly humanized, that makes us more humans, that there's a process by which our socioeconomic reality and sociocultural reality humanizes us instead of doing what it does now. It humanizes us. It doesn't matter how sophisticated we look, we seem, or how, all our marvels, technological marvels. You just look to these tech bros, how perverse and hubristic and delusional they are. Why should we follow them? Why should we take advices? Why humanity should take advice from these people? Should respect them. Okay, so that's why we need this. It is a quite complex, because our reality is very complex. We live in a society very complex systems, and we need to understand our thinking and analytic process needs to be through this complex systems analysis, but not as they are taught at school or at universities, because it's not about being technical. It's not about following models or being very technical. It's about humanly create our analysis, develop our skills, natural, analytical, critical skills, and apply them to the systems where we have to survive. That doesn't need necessarily to go through models that they can be very beautiful or very elegant or whatever. No, this is a very human. I mean, living. We are a living system. Just respect this living system as part of the wider living system that we this whole ecosystem that we belong to, that we are part of. So this is what I'm going to end it here for today. Thanks for listening. I mean, I would like to that anyone could understand what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to convince anybody about something. I'm just trying to. What my point is to try to make people think. It's not. I don't pretend to be right. It's just that this analytical process, this whatever you want to call it, philosophy, whatever it is based on a life that you live a life where the more I live, the more I perceive it. How dehumanizing the system where you live. It's to dump you down. Is to cripple us. It's not to make us more strong. It's to make us by being a Homo economicus. You lose your social. You are a social. You are Homo social, not a Homo economicus. Homo economicus is a subsystem. We need an economy, but the human economy, for most of the existence of the Homo sapiens, it has been what I call reciprocity and sufficiency economy. This is what the human economy is. It's not a process by which I become rich by making other people poor. And then I say that, okay, just because I'm rich, you will get something. It will trickle down something for you. That it can trickle down or maybe not. Because I want to accumulate more, why should I give you more? If the system where I live tells me that I must accumulate more. No? Yeah? Okay. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.